Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all having a lovely day. This is not a video that I am happy to make. It is not a video that I am excited to be putting out, nor is it a video I ever thought I would have to put out. I figured that I could just let bygones be bygones and do a video that was somewhat vague as to why one particular politician did not want to pass a bill in the state of Maryland regarding right to repair. However, unfortunately, due to the accusations that were made publicly, I feel that to not respond to this publicly would be doing a disservice to myself that is greater than any disservice that could be done to any potential bill that he may decide not to pass in the future as a result of me calling him out on this. You're not probably going to get what I'm talking about until you listen to this. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to play the video of the testimony that was given, and then I would also like to play my video from 2 years ago that the gentleman is referring to here when deciding to not hear the bill. And I'd also like to discuss a little bit of the philosophical issues that I have with this, given that this is fundamentally not the way that the legislature works in any part of the United States of America. So let's go on with this. What am I talking about here? I'll just kind of shut up and hit play. So this is a video on the right to repair farm equipment in Maryland. It is talking about House Bill 562, which completely and utterly failed, and I would like you all to understand why. So I'm going to play this, and we'll go from there.
All right, next bill, House Bill 562.
Yes, House Bill 562 is the right to repair farm equipment bill, and it requires original equipment manufacturers to make certain documentation, parts, and tools available to independent repair providers or owners of farm equipment to allow for diagnosis, maintenance, and repair of farm equipment.
Move on favorable.
Second.
Thank you. And I just remind colleagues, I got a wonderful death threat to me and my family from people who are fighting this right to repair. So you don't pass a bill by threatening people. So the motion is unfavorable.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can you tell me one more time what this bill does again?
Go
I
ahead.
didn't quite get it.
Okay, so it's a right to repair bill, and it requires basically a manufacturer of farm equipment to give certain documentation, parts to independent repairers or the owner of the equipment so that they can repair the equipment themselves. Right now, certain farm equipment, people are not able to repair their farm equipment without going to specific repair shops.
Yes, then Delegate Turner, this is the bill I was just discussing where somebody sent me an anonymous, because they're cowards, but an anonymous emails threatening the life of myself and my family because I was opposed to this bill.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Delegate Player, I see your hands up.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry that it happened to you. One reason for an anonymous threat like that, as you know, could be it's coming from the very side that supports killing the legislation. And after the hearing, it was pretty obvious that the arrogant personalities in the room were the ones who were dead set on killing the legislation and holding the general farm population as hostages to their profiting off of it. I'm going to support the bill. I think it's a good bill, something that we've already done with car manufacturers. And when you got to harvest that field, we need to be able to harvest that field and not depend on whether they'll show up after the food's all rotten in the field. So we're in a tough world right now, and we need everything that we can do to make sure everybody's in the game. And this piece of legislation puts the farmers back in the game. And that's why I'm going to support it.
Very awkward position to be in, Rick. I appreciate that. But again, the reason I know it was them because they also made a wonderful video about me a few years ago, quite racist, very similarly situated. So I have no doubt this was the proponents of the bill because they're the ones who made the video, and but that's fine. We can pretend if we like. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You know, the bill, if it were a national bill of scope, the way that you're suggesting, and Rick and I came in broad agreement on the bill last Friday on the hearing, but in this case, you know, if we're going to hold John Deere to the same standard we hold Ford, that's not a Maryland bill. That's a federal initiative. And you know, the other side is I never got over the principle that intellectual property matters. I'm not a lawyer, Mr. Chairman, but I spent more time than the average bear reading the background on this issue in a legal sense, and the bill just doesn't pass muster aside from what I would view as being straightforward behavior that I find offensive and how you described it. So I'm going to oppose the bill, and just wanted to say if it ever comes to be a national issue, they can resolve it for all 50 states, then so be it.
Definitely understand that was my logic in years past. Delegate Walker.
Thank you. I was just looking up. I think I got the answer. I was looking for the sponsor. What did the sponsor say? You let the sponsor know what happened?
You know what? And I respect Delegate Hornberger. I don't know if I did or not. That might be my bad. I don't think. And I will say this is just because a bill is voted down one year, that doesn't mean the next year that it doesn't. I don't play like that. We don't use that old record for this. But again, I substantially kind of what Chris was saying. I kind of disagree with the purpose of the bill. Regardless of this, I would have had issues with the bill legally, but I did not get the chance to talk to Delegate Hornberger.
Well, hopefully people in this party will let him know what happened. If he does not know what happened, y'all can share that with him. That's just not cool at all.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you. Delegate Fisher.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I received threatening emails from the leaf blower haters.
Did you really just do that?
No lie, I did.
Get off, man.
They were coming after me.
Man, mute him. Don't care.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Fisher. Delegate Mounts.
Yeah, I'll make it short, Chairman. Intellectual property law is a federal law. So if we pass something that it doesn't conform with the protections of IP, it's nothing. And so, I just wanted to double or just clarify a little bit more about the concerns about intellectual property. That law is supreme. So anyway, thank you.
Well, those y'all that don't know, Johnny Mounts is more than just a bar owner. He's also a lawyer. So don't let those looks fool you. So if we're ready to vote, I believe
he's also a hunter.
And also a hunter. There you go. The motion was unfavorable.
And a leaf blower.
Okay, guys, let's get back on. Delegate Howard.
Mr. Chair, did you want to take a day or two to talk to the sponsor of the bill?
I don't believe it's necessary. I mean, if that's the will of the committee, I don't mind. I don't take it personally offensive. And I know he didn't have anything to do with it. It wasn't nothing like that. I mean, like I said, I would have principled issues against this bill regardless of the threats, as I have in years past, which is why they came at me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. The motion was, I believe, unfavorable. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Delegate Crosby.
Aye.
Delegate Brooks.
Aye.
Delegate Fisher.
Yes.
Delegate Queen.
Yes.
Delegate Turner.
Aye.
Delegate Rogers.
Yes.
Delegate Harrison.
Aye.
Delegate Jackson.
Aye.
Delegate Pippy.
Aye.
Delegate Mounts.
Aye.
Delegate Carries excused. Delegate Impalaria.
No.
Delegate Branch.
Aye.
Delegate Valderrama.
Aye.
Delegate Walker.
Yes.
Delegate Chi.
No.
Delegate Adams.
Yes.
Delegate Arntz.
Yes.
Delegate Fennell excused. Delegate Charkoudian.
Yes.
Delegate Howard.
No.
Delegate Watson.
Oh, God.
Aye.
Thank you. It moves unfavorable. Next bill on the list is House Bill 637.
Okay, so I'd first like to address this from the philosophical point of view. Let's keep the racist part aside for a moment. We'll get to that when I actually play the video that he's referring to, which is mine from 2 years ago. When it comes to the standard as to when you will kill a piece of legislation because you are angry that someone sent you an angry email or a death threat or anything like that. Again, I don't even know if he actually got it, but let's just assume that he actually did for the purpose of this video. Is that a standard that would work to kill any other piece of legislation? If when the Patriot Act was introduced, if people who were emailed the senators that when they were pro-Patriot Act and said, if you don't pass this, we will kill you, do you think those senators would have said, you know what, I was going to pass the Patriot Act, but because you sent that, I'm not going to pass it anymore, screw you, just because you sent me a death threat? No. Do you think that when Andrew Cuomo was shutting down the entire state in March 2020 and March 20th, 2020 with a pause order, do you think that for a second that if somebody had emailed him and said, you better shut down the state right now or I'm going to kill you and your family, Andrew Cuomo, that he would have just said, you know what, just to get back the people that want me to shut down the state, I'm not going to do it just because you sent me a death threat. We're going to stay open like Florida. I'm going to go full Ron DeSantis and everybody can do what they want. No, because that's not the way this works. Cuomo would have seen, this is a state of 20 million people. If one person emails me a death threat, that is not going to be enough for me to change course or for that to affect legislation. That's ridiculous. This is not a standard that would have stopped us from getting the Patriot Act. It's not a standard that would have allowed us to not have shutdowns in New York City. Conversely, it's also not a standard, I imagine, that would have got Ron DeSantis to go full Gretchen Whitmer or Andrew Cuomo and shut down his state. This is not how legislation passes. If it was this simple, you could just email somebody a death threat pretending to be somebody, and then Medicare for all would be passed, or we would get rid of the Patriot Act, or anything else. This is not a standard that is applied to any other piece of legislation. However, it is being applied here, and I think it is garbage. He does say that he has other principled reasons for being against the bill later on, but you'll hear from my video that, in my opinion, those principled reasons don't hold up to muster, but more importantly, he did not list those first. He started off with the fact that he is mad at a video. Now, the lobbyist that we hired in the state went up to him, and he said, my client is willing to travel here to apologize for this video, given that that video has bothered you so much, and to work it out in person. And he said, no, don't worry about it. Water under the bridge. His words, not mine. And then several months later, he comes out in public and says this, which is just, for me, particularly aggravating. Now, I'm going to play my video that I did 2 years ago. On this channel, you'll see dating back to 2015, I go to hearings, I record lobbyists, I record pro-right to repair people, and I record the politicians' responses to both sides, and then I give my commentary on it. I have done this regardless of the demographic, of the gender, of the sexual orientation, of the religion, and of the opinions of any of the parties involved, and I do believe I do so evenly. But I'll leave that up to you to decide. That being said, I will play the video that I did 2 years ago.
This was a really kind of all over the place bill and all over the place testimony, because I find it ironic that we went from battery repair to source code and all in the same one, and that somehow one has lead to the other, and if I want to change your battery, I need your source code.
Can you quote a single one of the pro-repair activists saying that to replace a battery we need source code? No, we never said that, and we never asked for it. His question, how do we get from replacing batteries to needing source code? Very simple. We got there because a lobbyist started talking about source code to muddy the waters and to confuse you. And clearly, it worked.
I need everything that you know, and I understand what intellectual property is. And I want to make sure that there's understood that this is people's blood, sweat, and tears. People do things a certain way. Those two young men that were up here testifying before, if they end up creating a special way to access something, they're going to want that copyrighted, and they're not going to tell anybody about it because that's their blood, sweat, and investment. My question is, isn't it a great leap from replacing a battery, which you heard the good delegate talk about, in source code? That you do you need source code in order to replace a battery?
Well, let me, I appreciate your question, Delegate. So let's try to separate this out for a moment. We had two previous panels that talked
My camera
about
work sucks so
Apple
bad.
and iPhones and cracked screens and batteries and the like.
Right.
We're talking about video game consoles.
I'm getting to that.
Right.
That's my whole point, sir. This isn't just about, this bill doesn't just cover small cracked screens and batteries.
That's
it's
right.
talking about schematics.
Yes.
It's talking about you tell me exactly how everything that you've done and sweated over for the last 20 years works so I can do it myself. Correct?
That is what the repair people say.
When did I say that? When did I say that? Schematic. Not every single little thing about how the thing works, and so that you could create it yourself. No. You could literally make your own schematic simply by measuring every single resistor, every single capacitor, every single inductor, and every single line, every single probe point inside the device. That is something that's literally sold to you when you buy the product. It's totally separate from source code.
And we say in opposition that it would create a uneven playing field because it would promote piracy of video games.
I totally understand. I was going to get into that about piracy, about creating of viruses, because, contrary to popular belief, viruses don't just pop up. Some bad guy's out there creating them, and he does it because he has access to source code, things of that nature, to mess up your electronics.
Please tell me we're not getting to the point where someone is going to try to make the argument that right to repair is going to create viruses.
But
I was just concerned because
That part actually killed me, and I think that's the point at which people were sending angry emails. Likely not death threats, but angry emails. I imagine every single one of my subscribers who is a Linux developer or Linux systems administrator that heard somebody say that viruses are more likely to be created because you have access to source code was absolutely banging their head against their desk when they heard that, with rage for obvious reasons. I mean, over 50% of the internet is run on open source software, which would not work and be absolutely filled with viruses if it was true that source code being released would mean that there are more viruses, which further is even just completely outside of the ballpark of the point that's being made here, which is that the bill specifically does not say make available source code. It doesn't ask for source code, doesn't want source code, and we have said in our own testimony that it doesn't ask for source code, and in spite of that, he says that it is about source code. But let's continue.
again, we were talking about farm equipment. The over-encompassing nature of this bill is that we're talking about video games and farm equipment and iPhone screens.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, what I've understood is the customer has a choice. If I don't like the fact that I can't, I don't know, get an iPhone with an SD card, I don't buy an iPhone. So I want to make sure it's understood that this isn't just, you don't need a source code to change a battery or a screen. What they're asking for is basically the moon on a popsicle stick and everybody's intellectual property so they can decide what they want to do. And I just think it's a little overbroad.
I completely agree with the concept that if you don't like what Apple does when it comes to repair, that you have the choice to not buy Apple. I agree with the concept of not giving money to companies that you don't like or that are taking part in practices that you don't like. Great, don't buy it. But then he also kind of contradicts himself there when he says, I don't know how this got so broad to applying to cell phones and batteries to farm equipment. Because it's not just a problem with Apple, and that's what we've been bringing up for a very long time. This is not even about the general cell phone and laptop and consumer electronics industry. This affects the medical industry, as you can see from a video I did in 2018, whereby I interviewed some people who work fixing devices in the medical industry. This affects farm equipment. This affects everybody, because it's not just one company. We're getting to a point where you don't really have that option to just not buy from the company that does things that you don't like, unless you simply want to go back 20 or 30 or 40 years technology-wise and just not use any of this stuff. Show me a modern popular cell phone manufacturer that if an independent repair center says, hey, can we buy a schematic? We'll just sell you a schematic. Like, it's not that easy anymore. It's not that simple. It's not like if you don't like the way Apple is dealing with repair because they won't get you a schematic that you can just go with LG. Oh, yeah, they don't give you a schematic either. Or Samsung. Oh, yeah, they don't give you a schematic either. Or Huawei. Oh, yeah, they don't give you a schematic either. Or OnePlus. None of these companies do that. So this assertion that you can go elsewhere is completely true. But this idea that you can go elsewhere and the problem will be solved, in my opinion, is completely false. It seems like he drank the ESA Kool-Aid hook, line, and sinker, which honestly was somewhat disappointing for me because there were several people there that I expected to drink the ESA Kool-Aid, but after seeing how he responded to the Comcast lobbyists regarding robocalls, I was not expecting it to be him. That was a complete, just out of left field surprise, but is what it is. I included contact information for him below if you are a constituent of his in Maryland and would like to educate him regarding the difference between source code and schematics. He's not my delegate. I'm not his constituent. I don't live in Maryland. That's not my business to do. But if you do live in Maryland and you are his constituent, then that is your business. So I'd suggest that you try. And that was that. Now, do I sound salty? 100% I do. There are certain states where you could simply give your testimony and that's that. And there are other states where you are given a timer. Sometimes that timer is as short as 90 seconds. You need to say what you say in 90 seconds and that's it. And if they have any further questions or they say something that's incorrect or they get the bill entirely wrong and say it's about source code when somebody else said it's not about source code, there's literally nothing you can say. Imagine giving your testimony and then after you give your testimony, somebody says the opposite of your testimony and you literally can't respond to it. It would probably make you salty. And yes, I was salty in that video. 100% I was salty in that video. But even if I go into just, I try to embody Robin DiAngelo completely, or Ibram Mac, I cannot figure out how somebody can walk away saying that this is a racist video rather than a salty video. Now, when it comes to salty videos, you'll see that was a salty video. However, you know what else was? Here, when there is a white female lobbyist, not a black middle-aged man politician, this is a white female lobbyist who's saying that this bill is a solution in search of a problem, and I give my response, and I am also not exactly the nicest about it. Here, you have a white old man lobbyist that is saying that people may install TikTok on customers' phones without their will if you let independents repair them, which is obviously bullshit because you would need to give your password away, and we don't ask customers for their password. If they don't want us to have the password, we will test it without it. Here, you have a lobbyist saying that we already have access to everything that we need, so there's no need for this bill. I am highly critical of her, and she is a white woman. Here, you have somebody saying that this is an old white man saying that boats are going to explode if you give independent mechanics the ability to fix them, and Paul from my store lost his mind at him. Here you have an old white man saying that you cannot just let anybody fix things, and I point out that that's the way it's been for hundreds and hundreds of years. Here you have a young white woman from the ESA saying that the video game will play the console because she is that uninformed in how this all works, and again, wasn't exactly nice to her either. Here you have a lobbyist from AHAM that says that magtrometers inside of microwaves will explode if independents are able to do this, as if a magtrometer could even explode. And by the way, it's not called a magtrometer. She is a white middle-aged woman, and I could go on and on. Here is a senator that canceled a meeting with us after he had scheduled a meeting with us, right after he got a $3,000 lobbying donation from Kim Robach, from Muller Robach, who is a lobbyist for AT&T, who is against the bill. And again, he is an old white man. This is something that I do across the board. It does not matter your gender identity, your religion, your political affiliation, Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, your race, anything else. What matters to me is whether or not what you are saying is genuine or not. And I will give my opinion regardless of the race, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, any of that stuff of any one of these politicians. It is even across the board. It is documented on this channel for 7 years. If you say something about right to repair that isn't true, I will go after you. And yes, I'm a very passionate individual when discussing my livelihood. This industry allowed me to go from making $6 or $7 an hour at Modell's Sporting Goods, putting price tags on basketballs, to being able to employ 12 people with decent living wages, and to be able to have a decent life for myself, and to also be able to teach other people how to do the same. So when I talk about it, or when somebody talks crap about my industry, yes, I will go on YouTube and I will be animated and angry and rawr. But that doesn't mean it's racist. And I'm not going to apologize anymore for the fact that that is my personality. There are people out there that say you should be nicer, this, that, or the other. Yeah, but the people that are nicer, this, that, and the other also aren't able to raise over $900,000 inside of a couple of weeks for a lobbying initiative because they don't get people excited. They don't get people drawn into it the way that I have. So I'm sick and tired at this point of apologizing for things when these politicians were never going to give the bill a chance to pass anyway and simply want to be able to pass the blame on to me. Further, when it comes to being a public figure, I could go on for days with the garbage that I receive on a regular basis. I get death threats. I get people that write me torture novels on a regular basis. I usually delete them. I forgot to delete that, so I was able to find it. I get all sorts of crap every single day. To be a politician for damn near 10 years and to pretend that this is the only time you've ever gotten a mean email from somebody, if you did get that email, I think that's a little disingenuous. Further, I know that they probably get worse emails than I do because I don't actually have control over people's lives. A politician can actually affect people's lives. They can affect what they pay for certain city services. They can affect tax rates. They can affect what you are or are not allowed to do in your own home. I don't have the power to do that. I'm just a dude that yells on YouTube, and I get a lot of hate every single day. It is part and parcel of being a public figure. I understand that it is easy to focus only on the bad. It is part of the human brain when it comes to interfacing with millions and millions of people, whether you are in a district that has hundreds of thousands of people or you have hundreds of thousands of YouTube subscribers. I can get 100 great comments and 3 bad ones. My brain focuses on the bad ones, and so does everybody else on YouTube. But to pretend that an entire movement, further, to pretend that the 100,000 plus people that watch that video are all giving you death threats, I don't think that's genuine. And when you actually look at the video, one of the things that I'm actually kind of proud of the people here for is if you actually take a look at it, the comments are not very nice. But none of these comments are racist. If a person created viruses because someone has access to source code, Linux would be the most insecure operating system, and no business in the right mind would be using Linux servers. Firefox and Chrome would be the most insecure browsers, but that's not how it is. I'm a programmer. I got to say the technical logic of lawmakers making this decision hurts me deeply. This guy doesn't understand the difference between schematics and source code, and they're saying they're the same thing. That's dangerous ignorance. Listening to this physically hurts. Here's an example of why I don't have faith in politicians. He knows what's going on. He knows what this can bring. It sells his country out. Again, a lot of this stuff over here, it is mean. They are saying that he is not smart. They are saying that he doesn't understand it. Other people are implying that he's gotten bribes. The same is true for literally every other politician I've featured on this channel, as I've been doing this for the past 7 years. And honestly, if you've ever logged on to Twitter before and seen the discourse people have about politicians, oh my God, it is far worse than anything I've said in that video. The reason that this has no chance of passing, in my opinion, has nothing to do with the fact that I did a video where I criticized him for saying that the bill was about source code when other people that were there that day said that this bill has nothing to do with source code. That's not why this isn't passing. In my opinion, this is not passing because somebody got emails telling him, hey man, an operating system is not insecure because the source code is available. Or, hey man, viruses don't get created because the source code is available. And by the way, this doesn't ask for source code. I think it was because his ego was bruised when he was corrected on the fact that he was wrong. And the reason that I understand this, to be honest with you, is because I've done the exact same effing thing. I didn't accuse somebody of being racist or anything like that, nor did I pretend that one death threat amongst somebody who has hundreds of thousands of people in his district, when it's anonymous, was the reason for it. But I have done this in the past where I was engaging with somebody and they proved me wrong and they knew more than me, and I just kept going and going and going and going and going because I was in that lizard brain mode where I just have to win. My ego is more important to me. And I actually kept the comment up for everybody to see so that they don't do it in the future. There's a video I did, Car Remote Kill Switch, another reason not to buy cars in the future. I was talking about the fact that there was a bill introduced by Congress. It did not say that there was a specific kill switch. It didn't say kill switch. It just had specific circumstances under which if you were wasted and your car could tell you were wasted, that it would stop functioning. And they would like to look into adding that to new cars. But it wasn't some sort of, remote kill switch or anything like that. But I read through it and I said why I felt weird about this type of legislation, and I'd like to show you how this went. So if you scroll down here, I was saying I'm against this policy, not just for the slippery slope argument because I don't trust the technology. However, it's important to be clear about what the policy is before I explain why I'm against it. When you scroll down, you'll see that there was a person here that was pretty aggravated at my take in the video, and I responded to him very angrily and very arrogantly. And his name over here was Ewan Chan, and I said it was a ridiculous comment, and if you keep going, you'll see that he specifically cites why I'm wrong in my video, why I didn't get anything correct. He cited everything, and in spite of him citing everything, I still kept going and going and going and saying that he was ridiculous and he didn't know what he was talking about. And here's the funny thing here. Here's the funny thing. If you keep scrolling through that, you know what you find out? That dude is actually an automotive engineer. And he's been an automotive engineer for several decades. And he has had to deal with compliance. He's had to deal with the actual organization in the United States that deals with actually turning this stuff into law. Who do you think knows more about how the process of creating new legislation regarding automobiles works? A dude that got his driver's license less than a year ago? Or a guy that's been an automotive engineer for a top automotive company for several decades? I was in way over my head. But for me, I kept reframing the argument because I was more concerned with winning than what was correct. And what you'll see at the end of that is at some point I said, okay, here's why I have the principled stance that I do. Here's why I am aggravated at this, even with everything that you're saying. But you're right. There's a lot that I don't know, and there's a lot that I probably got wrong. Would you be open to coming on the show for a live stream so that you could correct everything I got wrong in this video and so that I could actually learn something? Because I have a bunch of questions related to what you said. But in order to do that, I had to restart my ego, restart my own dignity, just do a little hard reboot of my ego and my dignity for a moment to recognize that I'm not always right. And that if there's somebody that's been an automotive engineer for 20 years and I just learned how to drive last year, maybe, just maybe, he knows something that I don't. And I was very, very close, Oreo. I was very, very close of going down that route of keeping my mind closed and saying that person made me feel like he was against me. That person made me feel stupid. He made me feel like I was being insulted. So I'm just going to say whatever I need to say so that I can write him off so that I don't have to deal with him. And honestly, it's very tempting for a lot of people to do that. And I've done that at many other times in the past. But the reality is the more you do that, the less likely you are to get to the truth. And at the end of the day, People aren't stupid. People see that shit, and they're less likely to respect you. There are many instances where I've been wrong on this channel, and I've had to go back on things that I've said, but I always do it because I understand that if I don't do that, none of you are going to respect me, especially this cat that's meowing in the middle of my video, even though he's gotten 4 fucking cans of food today. Here, I did a video saying I was wrong about the Henrik Husby case. Let's go over the new information. One of the best viewed videos on my entire channel was a video on the Henrik Husby case, and I didn't have access to the court documents at the time. I worked off of the information that was available. Once I got access to the court documents, it was 100% clear to me that even though I dislike how Apple deals with independents, how they don't make parts available, that they actually had a small reason to be mad in this case. Apple actually had a reason to be pissed off. They had a reason to initiate this lawsuit. And while I don't agree about how they went about it, they had a reason for it. And it was important to bring that out to my audience, as anti-Apple as a lot of people in my audience are, and admittedly, as aggravated as I am at Apple at a company, I can admit when I'm wrong and say, listen, I still believe in everything that I believe when it comes to how this company is against right to repair, but in this small avenue, I got it wrong. And so did Vice. Vice, to this day, 3 years later, never updated their article with the information that I sent them or the court documents that I sent them that demonstrated that Apple had a point. But I showed them and I talked about them on this video, and it was important for me to get that across because at the end of the Oreo, I'm busy right now, boy, eat your food. But at the end of the day, I understand that I'm not going to have either the trust nor the respect of my audience if when I am truly fundamentally wrong and it's just right out there, if I just brush it under the rug and hope that you don't notice it because it damages my ego. And at the end of the day, I'm actually going to feel better with a bruised ego knowing I did the right thing than I will with a perfectly fit ego knowing that I've shut my brain off to any sort of new information, any sort of new ideas. We're all human. And we all make mistakes. And this is something that I'd been more than happy to have explained respectfully, kindly, and politely to C.T. Wilson in person had he taken up my lobbyist on my offer to actually take the Amtrak down there and work this out in person. We can all get aggravated, we can all get angry, we can all be mad in the moment, but at the end of the day, we all want what's best for our fellow neighbors and our fellow man. And even if we disagree on how to get there, at least that's what we want. Unfortunately, I was never given that opportunity to work that out. And this is not a video that I really wanted to do, but I simply cannot deal with that just being out there in the ether, that video is racist, when in my opinion, again, even when I view it through the lens of Robin DiAngelo herself, I do not understand how there is any connotation on race in that video. If anything, I would say that given that that video has no cursing in it and no personal attacks or insults in it, it is actually way better than many of the other videos I make on this channel where I'm giving the middle finger and screaming like a lunatic when somebody says something that is fundamentally and completely wrong. And further, this is also the reason that I'm not going to be doing any further lobbying in Maryland. This is why I'm not going to be putting forth future work in that particular state unless there is some sort of serious change. Because at the end of the day, I understand how things are. I'm a white business owner in 2022. If a black politician who is voted in by majority calls me a racist, that's going to stick. If they say that that video is racist, that's going to stick. There's really no way around that for me. There's really no way for me to change that, which is why I saw it as such a low blow when it came to that. Again, I could say that my trainer is black. That's what a racist would say. I could say that I dated a black woman 2 weeks ago. That's what a racist would say. I could say that I have black employees at my store. That's what a racist would say. I could say that in the Discord Letters to Lewis channel, there's a gentleman that was on a live stream video here learning board repair at one of the free repair workshops that we spent 3 hours showing how to do motherboard repair to, thanking us for the fact that we have helped him move forward in his career without ever asking a dime from him. I could do that, but that's what a racist would say. It doesn't matter. There's no way to respond to that accusation. There is nothing that actually works. It sticks and it stays. So there's really no point for me to continue moving forward in that state as long as they are willing to throw that at me, which is why I'm putting my effort into other states where if they disagree with me or they think that the bill shouldn't pass, at the very least, I could sit down, I can have a talk, we could work it out without throwing that type of slander at each other. But you have to understand why it is I'm not going to be comfortable moving forward with any sort of legislation in that state that I'm pushing when this is the level that they're willing to bring it to. You let me know what you think in the comments down below. But above all, my door and my inbox is always open. As angry and as gruff and as raw as I come across in these videos, I am always open to sitting down with somebody and working things out. Whether that's C.T. Wilson, whether that's Tim Cook, whether that is any one of the politicians or lobbyists I have mentioned in any one of these videos. I am always happy to let bygones be bygones, forget the past, and move forward for the good of the American consumer. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.